Okay, I think we're ready to go. Hi, Stephen. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Kyle. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. It looks like you've got some better weather than we had today, but not.
Yeah, you didn't have a great day there?
No, and we've been spoiled lately, so maybe the farmers will be happy. Take it. So Stephen, I'll let you maybe introduce yourself a little bit for those that don't recognize your face, but I'll say it up front. You're definitely the highest profile we've had on our podcast, so thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Stephen Caldwell, I was fortunate enough to play 18 years as a professional. The reason that probably I'm on with you, Kyle, and I'm living in Toronto, Canada, is because I finished my career with TFC, played in the MLS for a couple of years, and was fortunate enough to have opportunities to stay in Canada. I do a number of different things, but maybe most recognisable would be analyst for TSN, do some MLS, and did World Cups and Premier League in the past, I'm also a part-time assistant coach for the Canadian national team under John Herman.
Which I think that's we'll start right there. So what's it like working with John Herdman? He has a good reputation, obviously.
Yeah, he's magnificent. He's a great teacher first and foremost for a young coach like myself. So I learned so much from him. I think that the way he goes about things, his processes are really top notch. I've never seen a more prepared coach that I've worked under or worked with in the past, and so that's saying something considering some of the men that I've been fortunate enough to work with. So the level of detail is phenomenal. Like I said, the preparation that goes into it is exceptional. The hard work that we go through to get to the game on a trip, or the two games on a trip is like crazy, but it's very satisfying, very fulfilling. It's a pleasure to work with the players that we have. As everyone knows, Alphonso Davies and Jonathan David. We have Scott Arfield, Junior Hoylett, Jonathan Osorio, Samuel Piet, Max Crepeau, Borjan, Milan Borjan. Sorry, I could go on and on. There's so many great people. Daniil Henry, an ex-teammate of mine. So we've got a brilliant group of players, young lads that want to learn, and I think we've got the perfect head coach in John to really, the thought process that goes into the way that we play and the culture that we have as a team is second to none, and I'm expecting a great few years ahead for this group for sure.
No, and I know we're excited as a grassroots community, as a soccer community as a whole in the nation. The games are on TV, people are watching it. It's definitely growing, and a lot of those names you just mentioned are higher profile players than we're used to, right? I mean, like you said, Alphonso Davies is exciting for any soccer fan, let alone a Canadian soccer fan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Alphonso's slowly but surely becoming a worldwide superstar with his performances. Just incredible what he's done to come through at Vancouver at such a young age, and to get to Bayern Munich and then take very little time becoming a regular, and then getting talked about as one of the best left full backs in the world. I think just shows you the sort of potential that he has. I still say that word potential with Alphonso because I do feel there's more to come. I think there'll be bumps in the road like any youngster goes through, but I think eventually, if he's not there already, this lad will be a truly elite, world class left full back, left wing back, whatever you want to call it. A great kid, a guy who wants to listen and learn, and really goes about his business with the best kind of attitude. And the best compliment I can pay him is that every time I see him, whether it be commentating on one of these games from kind of 1 month to the next, or luckily now for me, getting to coach him and work with him, the improvement that I see between one camp to the next is phenomenal. So I'm a bit I'm optimistic and a bit like almost scared about the levels that this guy can get to, because if he keeps improving at this rate when he's 23, 24, 25, he's going to be scary. He's going to give a lot of people a lot of problems on that left flank for Bayern Munich in Canada.
Absolutely. I think I can tell you're excited. We're obviously excited.
Yeah.
When you work with a player like that, what sets them apart? Like, I know obviously there's skills there, but there must be something that you've seen at that level that sets those kind of players apart.
Yeah, it's mentality, to be honest, Kyle. It's always mentality when it comes to the top players. Yeah, of course they've got ability, but it's that resilience that they show in their play from one training session to the next, one game to the next, and their sort of mental strength to move forward and just keep improving. So they have a real a level, a groundedness to the way that they think, where they never get too high. They never think that they're too great, and they obviously never get too down when things don't go well. So that's the key. Once you have that kind of workman-like, resilient mentality, and you just keep forging forward, then only good things can happen. And I see that in Alfonso. I see it in Jonathan David, who I think maybe we'll talk about more in a minute, but he just obviously moved to Lille for
Yeah.
30 million euros, the biggest transfer for a Canadian by far in the
Yeah.
history of soccer in Canada. So it's exceptional. And Johnny, as we call him, is the same. He just has that kind of, it's weird to say, it's almost like a cool calm about him, where he doesn't say very much, goes about his business, does his work, and then usually puts the ball in the back of the net, and that's what makes him so special.
Yeah, exactly. And you nailed it. Like the deal that Bayern Munich looks like they got with that transfer is it might be talked about for a while. So and then
Yeah, no. The one thing I would say about that is that as great as MLS is and it's growing, Alfonso was in MLS. He was a young kid. I think Whitecaps did really well to get the deal that they got. Maybe you could argue they could have negotiated a sell-on. Maybe they have a sell-on. None of us really know, but he was playing in MLS. He was playing in Canada. He had played 50 games in MLS. Whereas, in fairness to Jonathan David, he's been scoring goals at a pretty big league in Belgium, a league that's
yeah,
shown that players can make that step up to a Ligue 1 or an Eredivisie or at times a Premier League and do well. So I think that he sort of warranted that higher transfer fee just because of the level that he's been scoring goals at. I mean, this lad scored a goal against Roma in the Europa League last season, so he's shown the pedigree that deserved that number. Now it's up to him to go and prove it at a higher level, and then hopefully step again into a Premier League La Liga team for probably 50, 60 million this time.
yeah. No, exactly. I think that's the hope, right? A couple of
Yeah,
years here and keep moving on. That's the hope from us watching, and I'm sure as his coaching staff, same idea.
yeah, yeah.
So, and I'll go into the kind of coaching part too. You just kind of mentioned. So, obviously, you played as a defender, and I know in our environment as coaches, a lot of times trying to give that advice, and we're not always as comfortable. Like maybe I'll address where I played more so than a goalkeeper or one of those kind of things. So,
Yeah.
so what's something that you would even pass on to someone like that, to a striker, to a different type of position that you would?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think quite honestly a defender can impart a lot of knowledge to a striker because he knows what he didn't like when he was a player. Like myself, for example, I know it was difficult to mark, and I know what kind of challenges gets a centre half, a central defender thinking about. Oh my gosh, this guy's coming off me. Do I step in there or do I stay off? And if I stay off, if he gets it and receives it in the turn, then I'm in trouble. And if I get too tight, obviously he's going to spin me, just in sort of simple terms. So I think it's just the little bits of knowledge. Like I said, I'm a young coach. I feel like I've got a great deal of experience and I've got a good idea and the way the game should be played, the way I like it to be played. And I've got very obviously distinct ideas, but I'm not at the experience stage where I can say I know anywhere near everything about putting on sessions and coming up with periodization and ways of playing and specific training sessions to try and come up with a style of play for a whole team. So that's what I'm learning. That's what I hope to get to, like a John Erman type level where
Yeah.
I don't know how many sessions John's done. I would guess in the many thousands. So it takes time. You can't think you played in the Premier League or you played for your country that you're going to just step onto a soccer field as a coach and and be the best coach in the world. You start at the bottom again. You've got to prove yourself. You've got to listen and learn and take bits from everybody you've worked with, and then come up with your way and your style of doing it, and obviously prepare properly to put on the best session for your players. And it might make perfect sense to you what you're trying to achieve,
Mm-hmm.
For your team, but how do you get that across to 20 people, or even just 3 or 4 people within a back four? Let's just say just a back four, because you went through it for hours and hours, and to you it's like, okay, I get it, but your delivery is so important, because your team, your defenders, let's say, only have 3-4 sessions to get that idea, to get that concept that we're trying to achieve. So that's been a big learning point for me. How succinctly can I say this, and how can I make it simpler, I guess, than what it's been for me to come, or a coaching staff, to get to this this realization. That's a hard thing, I think, that really comes with experience.
Yeah, and the language you use and the word choice, and
Yeah.
and I'm sure that John goes into all those details, and I'm sure you do too. And how do you get that through?
Yeah. I think for a guy like yourself, I have so much admiration, Kyle, because I've coached kids a little bit, my lads and whatever, but it's, my brother did a coaching course once in England, and it was a youth license, and we say we have such specific terms in soccer, and different terms for different countries, I guess, but we'd always say someone in Scotland, like, you've got to get in at the back post.
Mm-hmm.
And Gary was saying this in some session, and the instructor said, "Wait a sec, like, what's the back post?" He's like, "Well, like the back post." Like, well, does a kid know that? Like,
Yeah.
if the session's not gone well, and it's breaking up in different areas, whether it's U12s, U16s, or Canadian men's national team, the session's probably going poorly because of your delivery as a coach. It's not about the players, it's about how you've explained it and how simple it is for them to get it, so it can then flow, and then you can actually step in there and coach.
Yeah.
So there's loads of things come into it, and like I said, at times you think, oh, I've got the perfect session here, it's going to be amazing, and you get out there in the field and you run it and you're like, oh, that wasn't very good, what went wrong? And so the best coaches I've worked with are guys who that happens to them as well. Roberto
Yep.
Martinez, the Belgian national team manager, I worked with him at Wigan. Roberto put on some of the most magnificent sessions I've ever been part of, and also some of the worst. But the worst ones were because he was innovative and he was trying something different. And when we went back to it 2, 3, 4 weeks later, it was 10 times better because he had made the right adjustments that were needed to make it better the next time. And yeah, that's a massive learning point as well. That your delivery and your ability to improve it is very important.
No, I agree. And if you're not pushing your own boundaries and you're doing the same sessions again and again, I don't know how much as the coach you're going to improve.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think a player shows up to the session thinking, you know what, I'm going to make a mess of this tonight. I'm going to make
of course.
it doesn't give it right. I mean, I don't think that's the mentality. So, no, I agree 100%. And well, you kind of alluded to it now. It says you obviously played with Toronto FC, great atmosphere at that building, in that stadium. But you've also played with some pretty big teams across the pond. Leeds, for me, sticks out. I mean, that's just a legendary club.
Yeah.
Newcastle, like you said. Is there an atmosphere? Is there something different when you're in North America? You kind of touch on that, because I mean, I've never lived it, fortunately, but
yeah, it's definitely different. I don't think necessarily worse or better. I really use the word different specifically because it is more of a family atmosphere within a stadium in North America. I think at times in the UK it can be quite vicious and quite I don't know, electric, I guess, is a word within the stadium. It can have a very positive impact on you as a player or the experience in general, and it can also have a very negative one. You can go to some places where you get a fair level of abuse, and it's quite, I don't care who you are, you learn how to block it out, but it's not very nice. And I've never really seen that anywhere in North America. I've seen crowds that are normally quite appreciative of the quality of football that's on show. Yes, they support their team. I'm thinking of places like Portland, like Seattle's another good one. Kansas City, it's a wonderful stadium to play at. Great atmosphere, and I loved playing at their places. But they're very different for going to, like, let's say, a Millwall, where there's times you're actually fearing for your life and you're on the field. You're like, what could happen here? So West Ham was another one. Upton Park back in the day when they were at the old stadium. Where else would I say? For kind of crazy atmosphere. Obviously, derbies, Sunderland, Newcastle. I played for both teams in the derby, so I've kind of experienced it for every side, and amazing games. But the tension leading into it and the sort of pressure going through it is not. You would never use the word enjoyable really about it. It's just quite a strain on you at times. So yeah, different for me. Will we ever get to that level here in North America? And I kind of hope not. I think we've got a distinctive kind of brand in the way that we do it, and I think it's brilliant. And I think we should appreciate that and kind of celebrate that, rather than wishing we were like a Milan derby or a Celtic Rangers game. It's like, yeah, they are amazing and they are unique, but they're very vicious as well. There's a lot of negatives that come with the games also.
No, for sure. And to be able to bring your family, man, to be able to bring those kids to the game and not have to worry, I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, it should be an enjoyable experience, and TFC's female field is one of the best. It's a really enjoyable experience, and I've also seen it. I'm thinking of the 2016 Eastern Conference final between Montreal and TFC, and just the drama. The second leg was unbelievable. The first leg was very, very good, and the best home and away playoff series, I think, in MLS history. So that was a phenomenal night, and it's up there with kind of the best memories I have in the game. I was calling that game, unfortunately, I wasn't playing in it, but yeah, it's coming. There's some great places to play, and I just don't think we'll ever be at that level of hatred of Europe.
Yeah. No, exactly, and I don't even think our other sports are at that. So I think it's not.
Yeah.
Well, it's not. It just isn't in the cards. And you kind of mentioned the tension or the nerves that you had in those high profile places. Was it the same kind of feeling with the national team, or is it even ramped up another level, or how does that compare?
Yeah, it's ramped up another level or 10, to be honest. And the best way I can describe it is, you play for Newcastle and your mum and your sister are watching, and you play for, my brother played for Celtic, so my uncles were going to the game and my cousins are watching. But when you play for Scotland, your schoolmates are watching, your parents are watching, your family's watching, everyone is watching that game. So you have a real responsibility to get a result for the country that you love. It is a high level of pressure, a great honour as well. Really, the emotions, just thinking about it, make the hairs in the back of your neck stand up, because it's such an honour. But with that comes responsibility, and I had some tough games with Scotland as well, where it was quite a strain. We had one particular game in Moldova where we were on a really bad run and we drew 1-1 with Moldova, and back in the day, Moldova was considered a team Scotland should comfortably beat. But by that point, it was maybe mid-2000s. Teams like that, nations like that, were getting so much better.
Yeah.
And they gave us a tough game. We drew 1-1, and the fans were waiting for us at the airport, and they were giving us some stick as we were walking towards the airplane. And it was quite a traumatic experience, actually, to go through when you're representing your country, to kind of disappoint your fellow nationals like that is a hard thing to take. But it just shows you the passion and the commitment people have towards soccer. It's everything to them, and that's something that wasn't lost to me during my career, whether I played for one of the great clubs I played for, or for Scotland. It's everything to these people. So I'm damn sure I'm going to leave everything out there when I get on the field to make sure that they at least appreciate the effort that I'm putting into that game.
No, that got me thinking. I mean, how old would you have been there at that time?
I was about 20, maybe I was at Sunderland. I think I was 24, 23, 24.
Right,
Yeah.
and you're describing it like it just happened. So obviously those
Yeah,
kind
it never leaves you. You never
yeah,
forget it. It's like it's sort of like scratched on your brain. It's just never going to go because you're dealing with it quite professionally at the time. But when you think back, you're like, wow, that was traumatic. That was tough to go through. But I learned so much, and by the time you get to 30 plus, you feel like you've been there and seen everything. And so that kind of, we talk about experienced players and, inexperienced players. And sometimes you think it's just like a cliche, but it really has a big effect on a squad when you've got the guys that have played 300-400 games and have been there and done it. They can settle the youngsters down if they're good leaders. And that's what makes, the nice balance between a real proper team and the also rans.
no, and you yourself, you were just under 400, right? Like the amount of
Yeah.
games you would have played. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I played a few. I think I was just maybe over with some
there you
internationals
go.
and stuff. But
Yeah,
yeah, it was a great career. I was fortunate enough to kind of play regularly from my kind of mid-20s, where I was at Newcastle and I wanted to go and play regular, and I made that decision. I'm glad I did because I would have felt cheated if I only played a couple of hundred. I really wanted to get
yeah.
a chunky career under my belt, whether it be in the Championship or in MLS or in Premier League. It was all a great honour to play for some of the teams with such great fan bases.
No, for sure. And like I said, looking at the list, I mean, there's some teams there that they're iconic, really. So it must be special
Yeah,
to be a part of that.
yeah, it was. What you mentioned, Leeds, great to see them back in the Premier League. I only played 17 games there on loan, but what an effect it had on me and my career and kind of playing in front of that fan base, just amazing. Even though bit of disappointment ended in relegation, it was just such an honour. Even one of my last club, not one of my last in England, was Birmingham,
Yeah,
and we were in the Championship, but we got to playoffs and we played in the Europa League for the first time in 50 years, and what an experience. The group stages, Europa League, and we played. The playoff game was against a Portuguese side called Nacional. We drew 0-0 in Portugal and in Madeira actually, and we came back to St Andrews in Birmingham and we beat them 3-0. We played brilliant on the night, and after the game, the crowd were phenomenal, and our kit man had been at Birmingham for God knows how long, 30 or 40 years, and he said it's the loudest I've heard that stadium in a long time. And I can remember feeling so proud that
yeah.
I was part of a night that was, kind of scratched into the brains of a guy like that who had seen and been and done everything within that club. So, yeah, some great times, mate, with some great people and, like I said, some great football clubs.
No, I think it's phenomenal. Like I said, you remember it like yesterday. So those are things that impact your life. It's
Yeah.
pretty awesome. So I guess what was it your last year that you honestly thought about stopping, or was it a year before, or how did you kind of make that decision, I guess?
Yeah, it's the hardest decision you can make. You don't. Well, maybe some guys prepare for it. I know some guys say at the start of a season, "I'm retiring at the end of this year," but that was not my path. I felt really good into that last season, and I was really fit, and I thought I had at least another couple of years left in me. And then, I picked up the injury, and once I picked up the injury, it was just downhill for there. It was a calf strain, and it was a tear, and then it became an Achilles problem, and I just couldn't get back in the field. And then you start to think, well, maybe this is the end, and a
Yeah,
few other opportunities come along, and then it was suggested that maybe I move into the business department, and I liked the sound of that because I love the city so much, and
yeah,
so I just kind of made the decision to hang them up, and maybe I was a bit impetuous. I could have and should have tried to get fit for longer. I tried for 3 or 4 months, but
yeah,
I made the decision in the summer. Maybe I should have waited till the end of the year, but you've got other things to think about. I was getting near 35. I knew it was the beginning of the end, and my want to stay in Toronto outweighed the kind of push into to play another 25 games in my career. I just thought,
yeah.
no, this is the right time. Come out at the top and just sort of see what's next and get prepared for that transition in my life.
And that's cool too, because you're right. There's some people, some players that start doing their badges and their courses while they're still playing. There's some that go into the industry, like you said, they're broadcasting before they're even done. And
Yeah.
so you didn't really give that thought, and it kind of just happened naturally for you, or how did that kind of come about?
Yeah, I was doing a bit of broadcasting when I played, but it was more at the end of the season. I did Premier League stuff for TSN and obviously nothing MLS when I was playing in it. And then yeah, like when I retired, there was some odd gigs there, and I was kind of like the sub, the fourth man, you could say. And then obviously Jason DeVos left for a brilliant role with Canada Soccer, and I just kind of moved into Jason's shifts, to be honest, and it went from there. And yeah, I always enjoyed broadcasting. I even did it a little bit in the UK when I was suspended or injured with some of my teams, and so it felt really natural to me. I enjoyed it. I still think I've got tons to learn, and I could get so much better. But it's something that I feel very comfortable doing. I work with two brilliant guys, and Luke Wildman and Christian Jack, who are just the best professionals and thorough guys, and gave me the right start again. I listened and I learned, and I saw what was kind of needed. The preparation that was needed to be good at the job was enormous. It was, I didn't want to be a guy who just turned up and winged it. I think when you're prepared, you're more confident. You sound more like yourself, and everything just flows. So I'm grateful that I had they two fellas as my kind of mentors and examples, because there's nobody works harder than them in the entire business, never mind just here in Canada.
No, and it shows. It honestly shows.
Yeah.
I know they're up for awards every time, if not taking them home, and I'm sure you're right there with them. So no, it definitely shows, and it's appreciated too.
Thank you.
You kind of mentioned Jason DeVos. I guess he'd be our big boss here in Canada right now with the coaching side of things and club licensing, and the guy wears many hats. I was fortunate enough to be in a course with him. He was obviously delivering the course.
Yeah.
Great guy. You must have a story for us, a funny story that can be appropriate for everyone.
A funny story on Jason. I'm trying to think. I love working with Jason. He's been so instrumental in the many great things that have happened to me here in Canada. To be honest, it was his support way back when I got some gigs and with TSN. I worked sometimes with Jace, but often it was when Jason was doing his coaching license in Ireland and picking up his UEFA license, where I would get some gigs. And then what I appreciate a few things about Jason, but one of them was when he was leaving TSN, he suggested to my bosses, his ex bosses, that I would be the right guy and the perfect fit, and so he really teed me up for that role, and I really appreciate that. And then now I get to work with him in a real soccer capacity with the national team. He's often part of our coaching staff if it works, and I work really close with Jason. We normally kind of split it up into attack, midfield, defence, and Jason and I will take defence. Maybe one will focus on fullbacks, one on the central defenders, and we're basically live with each other for 14 days, so we really get to know each other. It's been a joy. There's moments where there's you share with the 3 or 4 other coaches that you can just never replicate. I have to say, the feeling of winning as a coach, assistant or head coach, I think outweighs winning as a player. I honestly believe when you put the preparation in, you go through the camp, and then you get a victory like we did against the USA at BMO Field, it's just so satisfying. It's hard to explain to a fellow player and someone who's played the game. So yeah, I think that Jason and I have spent some great times. We've had some good laughs. We've also had some tough discussions with each other, with other people. That's the kind of men that we are, and I think we truly respect each other because of that.
No, I think that sums it up. From my short time with Jason, he's a leader and a giver for sure. He'll help anybody and take time. So that sounds exactly like I would expect it to. If you were going to give, I guess, a piece of advice, you kind of mentioned again, with those badges, and Jason was traveling, and you're still doing it and still learning, like you said too. is it different for an ex-professional? I imagine it is. I imagine a question's asked and everybody might look at you and say, well, what's the answer? Compared to the average coach in the room that might not have that same experience. So how did that happen for you?
Yeah, I think it's just down to a confidence level in what you believe, you know, and standing up for what you think, because none of us are right, and often none of us are wrong. You know, it's an opinion. It's what you think. You know, I can remember being on my B license, UEFA B license. Oh, it was probably 10 years ago now when I was still playing, and we have this very renowned, fantastic coaching instructor called Jim Fleeting in Scotland, and Jim was talking about one of the lads was delivering a session, and he said, play it to the good side, or play it to his, you know, the right side, as we say. And Jim was mad. He was a spiky character, Jim. He still is. And he sort of said, "There's no such thing as the right side and the wrong side." And does anybody disagree? And everyone's quiet because people are scared to challenge Jim Fleeting. And I said, "Yeah, I disagree. Of course there is. You know, it depends where the defender's position, where your body's position, what foot's the strongest." So I started to kind of justify my answer. We had a discussion and a debate about it, and Jim stuck to his guns, but he respected the fact that I was willing to challenge him on it, and I had an opinion, and then I could try and back that opinion up with kind of evidence. And so I'm forgetting the question, so I'm rambling that much. But I think that nobody's right, nobody's wrong. Yeah, I think I've experienced some great things as a player, but like I said, I'm never arrogant or think like I know everything because I played at a level. You know, it's absolutely irrelevant. It's about how you adapt as a coach and how you kind of bring the experiences to life and try and pass that on to the players that are working under you now, and the players that you know, if you can make them a little bit better, then you're a good coach. You know, a lot of guys make players better because of the way that they deliver things. A lot of guys make players worse, to be honest. So I just hate to be that coach who takes away from the player and inhibits them, and I'm always trying to give them confidence and give them scope, and also give them accountability and autonomy to go out there and own it for themselves. Eventually, once you do that, then I think you're winning as a coach. When you get your players going out there and kind of grabbing the games themselves, then you're onto something.
I think that's a great message. We'll start to wrap it up. I mean, I want to be respectful of your time. You're obviously taking the time out of your day. You're on.
Well, we'll do it again. We'll do it again sometime.
We
get a few of these. It'd be great. We could come up with a specific topic or whatever we want. But yeah, I love talking about football.
No, and it shows, and that's what it is. We got a real football man on here. Thanks for taking the time. Like I said, I got a couple quick fire questions for you I want to ask, just to put you really in the hot seat here. And then we'll let you give a little message if you have one. So if you had one piece of advice for a grassroots player that wants to be at that other level, what would you tell them?
Work hard every single day. Just practice, and listen, and you know, just stay focused on what you're trying to achieve. You know, don't get down. Don't get, you know, too impetuous about getting there, and that. Just keep practicing and keep listening and learning.
It's awesome. If you had to go inside of a rondo with one player from the national team, who are you going to bring in with you?
Inside a rondo, who would I pick? It would obviously be a defender. I would pick Kamal Miller.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd take Kamal with me because you're talking about defending the ball in a rondo, yeah? Yeah, I'd take Kamal with me. Kamal's quick, he's fast, he's aggressive, he's a hard worker, he's obviously a defender, he's powerful. He's a guy that I would have in the middle of the rondo because we'd get the back in no time. The ball back as I was labouring in the background, he would be finding that ball for me.
Okay, I think you're strategic. You got a guy that's gonna move around for you.
Yeah, basically.
And then if you had to go on a road trip with one other guy on the coaching staff, who are you going to bring? Who's going to control the radio? I mean,
yeah. Well, we've got we've got a good group there with the coaches staff. We always get in the minivan. We head to training before the lads, obviously, to prepare the session. John likes to just, when you're not looking, if he's driving or if he's in the passenger seat, just presses the heated seat. So before you know it, in the summer, you just sweating. You wonder why. You feel like it's so hot, and that seems to be his party piece. So it wouldn't be him. Simon Eady is a great friend of mine. Goalkeeping coach Simon Eady's brilliant. So Si's always got a story or two. But I'd probably have to go with. And Jace is usually driving. Jace is a designated driver. He gets us there nice and safe. But Mauro Biello would be my choice. I love spending time with Mauro. We'd get a good laugh. We'd probably get there late, and who knows if we'd even choose the right road. But it'd be a good laugh in the process.
And that's what it's all about right there.
Yeah.
So if you've got anything else that I didn't ask you, or something you want to give out to a message, I'll give you the platform for a little bit. And like I said, I want to respect your time, and we'll get out of here.
Well, thanks for letting me do this, Kel. I've really enjoyed it and appreciate it, and I mean that about coming on again. So maybe some of the kids can decide what topic we talk about, or we can decide something. But yeah, let's do that. My message would just be, keep working hard, boys and girls. Just keep pushing forward, and never think that any dream is too big. Like, anything's possible. I was just reading an article last night on the Players Tribune about Nani's story to get to Manchester United, and Portugal European Championship winner, and obviously now in Orlando City doing some great things, and a remarkable story about being hungry and having absolutely nothing. So, anything is possible. A lot of these guys show it, and their stories tell it. And so just believe in yourself, work hard, and do everything you can. If you want it enough, you can achieve it.
That's awesome. That's perfect. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and I'll take you up on that offer. We'll do it again.
Brilliant. Sounds good. Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks.